So, in the ambush, is there anything really from what you took from it, from when you watched it, that sticks out to you in terms of how different it is to what you're normally used to with Doctor Who?
Well, there are a few things that I didn't expect. It's not so much that I wasn't used or I'm not used to it, but things that I didn't expect from that episode, because I'd seen, because I've been watching them in order.
Yes, you've been doing it the proper way, the real way.
Yes, I thought I'm sort of getting used to the style and what it's like, but I was surprised by Ian's escape from the Daleks' shell. It's like one of the first moments of like, this sounds like an insult. It's not.
No, go on.
Of like proper suspense.
Yes.
Because quite often, especially like with older television, they explain everything, or they sort of show everything.
People in a line on a multi-camera explaining everything. Yeah.
And with this, you don't actually know what's happened. So you're just like the characters. You're like, what's happened to Ian? Like, I'm really scared. And
interestingly,
then
as well,
don't find out
the section with the Daleks smashing out the door, as breaking through the door, all that sort of stuff is shot on film. That was all pre-recorded before they went into the studio. So that bit was sort of, they just played it in. So that's why it's probably got a bit more dynamism to it compared to some of the other stuff. But it does it works definitely. I was going to say the sound design for that. It works a lot.
Why did you choose to film it like that?
Why did I?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why did you do that? Why did you make that decision?
Ask Christopher Barry, who knows.
No,
sadly,
you did it.
No.
Oh right.
I'm not sure where that was going, but no.
I thought you made this.
No, I'm afraid not. I wish I had.
Oh right.
What out of in terms of the characters, how did you feel yourself being drawn to anyone in particular?
No, that's not true. Well, I really like Barbara. I think she's sensible. You know, like when Ken was on, he said about how.
Do you mean esteemed
Dr. Kenneth Longdon,
esteemed lecturer Dr. Kenneth Longdon?
I'm sorry.
MBE.
What?
MBE.
Can I just say, for anyone who has listened to Dr. Kenneth Longdon's episode,
if you haven't,
and you
go
should,
and do it.
You should be doing it in order.
Yeah.
Right? I'm sorry that mine isn't as enlightening television-wise and history. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but they've come in to hear you. You're a star in yourself.
I'm sorry, I haven't used the word thematically yet.
You can. I'm waiting for it.
Okay, it'll be shoehorned in somewhere. But yeah, he said about how he didn't like Ian very much.
Yes.
Of his wardrobe choices.
It was just for that. I asked him to elaborate on it, and he didn't say. He said, he just his cardigan, isn't it? And I was like, well, no, what about him? What's your problem with him? And he never said.
Well, I think he's like the alpha male, which some people would like, some people would dislike. And I sort of don't like it just because he's going against, or he's sort of debating with the Doctor. And it's like, the Doctor's the guy you love. And you.
Yeah, but not at this point of the show, he isn't.
No,
that's the thing.
I know.
You've got to detach yourself.
And he is being very useful.
Well, he risks his life, doesn't he? He's always putting his life on the line.
And he says later on, why like destroy without any thought or reason? And you're like, oh, you're quite a clever guy.
Well, he's a science teacher.
He's a school teacher.
He's a science teacher. He's probably used to educating kids on sex education and all that stuff. So he's got all this like great.
I didn't do sex ed in this.
Did they not?
Did they no.
Anyway, so you're a fan of Barbara, but not a fan of Ian.
Well, I just think she's a bit more realistic. He's sort of like, let's be sort of a bit more. He's a bit more idealistic, isn't he? Like,
yeah.
If we show them some strength, we're going to win. You've got to be sort of sensible.
But it's interesting how Ian's argument is the one that wins through in the next episode. Spoilers. He's the one who manages to convince the Files what's to do. It's the Doctor who's going, it's a load of rubbish. Which continues your point of you're pretty much positioned with Ian and not the Doctor. Do you think that would be off-putting? Is that off-putting to you, and do you think that would be off-putting to other people coming to this anew?
Possibly, but at the same time, you are getting to know a new Doctor, just like people, like audiences in the 60s. You are still getting to know him and what he's about. even though we think we know the Doctor, like
You thought
I sort of have this idea of I know him. He's a mysterious guy.
Yeah.
But actually, he's a bit cowardly.
Well, originally
Yeah.
so. But no, it's that sort of eye-opening, because how far are you? You're up to middle of Marco Polo.
Yes.
Have you found yourself like having to reevaluate some of your ideas you had about the show, or were you expecting that going into this stuff anyway, knowing it would be vastly different?
I knew it would be different, but I did think he was a bit more sort of scholarly,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and wise. And is it in Marco Polo where he's just sort of fainted for a bit?
Yeah,
where is the
2.
Doctor?
Yeah,
I'm
that
not
was
sure where he
literally
is.
to give Hartnell a bit of a break, or recording.
Oh, sorry.
So,
Sorry, Bill.
so don't worry. But no, he still has that sort of scholarly aspect. Like, to the end of
only because he like holds his lapels.
Yeah, but
That's
then
the only
at
thing that
the end
makes you
of
think he's clever.
the end of the Daleks, where he gives that speech about how his truth is in the stars, and all of you've got to go and search for it.
I think that that bit where he's actually being shown by one of the Thals, the map of like
Yes, this
Skaro
is it.
where he is, and you're like, this is the first time he's finding out about the Daleks,
Daleks.
and stuff. And you're like, that's so cool.
And
That's
it's
so
interesting
cool.
how, of course, at this point, this is just another story. You just watch this, and of course, now it's this context for me. Again, we watch it, it's like, oh my God, it's the first time that all this has
Yeah.
happened. But at the time, it's just another story. Interestingly, oddly, how it is only the second one, though, so you're still getting used to it.
Also, when I watched this episode,
Mm-hmm.
I was not disappointed.
You weren't disappointed. That's a good start.
I was a bit disappointed because
no.
in Series 9, when they go to Skaro,
Yes, which has been very well recreated.
I mean, I love that. I was like, it looks the same.
Yeah.
And the set's the same. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And Missy says to Clara, get in. That I watched that.
Get in the Dalek.
Get in the Dalek.
Yeah. Get in where? Where's she going? Where are they going now?
I watched that before I'd seen the ambush, and I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And so original. And then I saw this, I was like, oh.
But that's not there. That's not.
It's not bad. I was just like,
I mean, it's not the episode's fault that it did
right.
something before, something in 2015.
oh no,
No, of course.
more disappointed with the
With
modern.
the, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, you're not
I mean,
as
they're both
original
very
as I
different. They're
thought,
both very
'cause
different
they-
concepts, because Ian has no
Yeah.
trouble at all saying anything,
you can just hear him like inside,
whereas Clara, it's the whole thing. Everything she says is
Yeah.
changed into.
which is very clever. And I must say that in Series 9, that is one of my favourite episodes of Doctor Who ever. Or
Oh, God.
set of episodes.
Okay.
Which I didn't mention before, but I remembered. And yeah, because
Interestingly, that's
often
that's a story that's got a lot of classic series background to it. Like, there's a whole scene where they go through confrontations with the Doctor and Davros, and they make lots of reference to the Tom Baker story, Genesis of the Daleks, which you'll get there.
you're spoiling it. for
Season
me now.
12. But there's a lot in there that is references to stuff from the past. So it'll be interesting if your appreciation grows the more classic Doctor Who you see.
Will I just realise more and more that the modern version of is sort of copied stuff?
Yeah, but not in a way it's copied. It's continuity.
It's
It's
copied
continuing itself,
Yeah.
continuing when it's set up.
True. True.
When you watch an episode like this, do you feel that you have to get in a particular mindset to see it, as in because it's old television, or do you watch it still with the mindset of watching a new series episode? Do you go into them the same way? It's me mainly trying to ask, as you're new to all this, and of course people listening might be new to all this as well, and
Yeah.
what sort of things we said to them, because that was the aim of the complete review in the beginning, was people just sort of like, oh yeah, they know, most people know all the Doctors. Most people know all the names and know everything that's going on,
Like
but-
me when I was 11.
like you when you were younger, and we'll have a vague sort of picture, and maybe even some ideas of, like, little tropes like, oh, Tom Baker's got the jelly babies, Peter Davison's got the cricket, that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
but don't verge into there, if that makes sense.
I think I certainly treat it a bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in terms of like around me. So if I'm online or something, I see someone talking about this new show, I'll be like, oh, I've got to watch that. And
Mhm.
I sort of feel like when I'm watching, say, like the latest Netflix series, it's like this is something I've sort of got to do,
Mm-hmm.
so I know I'm keeping up with
Yeah, yeah.
things. Whereas obviously, because this is quite old.
It's a bit old,
know.
just a bit older than us. Just a bit.
I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I'm a little bit younger than it. I don't know. I think it's
Have I riled you?
It's still new.
It's
to
still new
me.
to you. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It's a really difficult question. I think mainly I watch it just because I'm like, I really want to.
Are you doing it
See
out
it
of a
all.
sense of duty, as in to be able to say, I'm a fan, I've now seen, say, the complete
Well, no, it's
season
because
1?
I feel
or
a lot
simply
of
because...
pressure from you to watch it.
In all honesty? No.
A little bit. There's a little bit of pressure, but
I feel I have that effect on sadly most people. When I
watch
start,
Doctor
as
Who,
in start
or I won't be
start
your friend.
talking about classic Doctor Who, and then it'd be like, what's all these shit references that he's making and rubbish docky jokes? And then it's like, well, we'll watch it to find out then. And then, of course, it happens, and many people waste a lot of their time.
Well, I think if more people did watch classic Who,
Mm-hmm.
then there would be the same feeling that you have with like a latest series, like say a Netflix series. You'd be like, oh, I've got to watch that. Because everyone's talking about it. So if more people did it, more people spoke about it, you'd be like, yeah.
Because what do you think? There's like a perfect time to watch Doctor Who? Because we were talking before when you started getting into Tennant, and sort of age, was it 7, 8?
No.
Age?
How old was I? It was like early 2006.
How old would you have been?
9.
9.
I hadn't had my birthday yet.
Okay.
And then I had my birthday, and then I was 10.
But that's the
year.
perfect
Okay.
age for that sort of stuff growing up at the time. Do you think there's a
Yeah.
perfect age to be watching classic Doctor Who? Because I'm not sure if you would have been able to watch The Ambush aged 7, and if maybe that would have had the same impact on you as, say, something like Rise of the Cybermen.
You know the cavemen one?
Yes.
I don't think I could have watched that as a kid.
No.
Just it goes on quite a while.
See, I never used to be a big fan of it. I always used to watch part 1's fantastic, the next 3 parts, skip them.
I mean, I
Or
think
just
it's
ignore
good
them.
how I really like the idea of going back to cavemen times. That's really cool.
And it's something that's never been done since
Good.
on Doctor Who.
Good.
Which, so you're not getting any repetition there. But I mean, it's maybe because it's the very first story, they won't want to do something like that again. But in watching them again recently, and focusing on each as individual episodes rather than watching all as one, they do stand up, but it's because it's still not Doctor Who by this point. It's 4 people getting to know each other.
Yeah.
So
I
you've
suppose
not
that,
set
like,
up it doesn't feel like you're watching Doctor Who. It feels like you're watching a historic... I don't know, there's something odd about it.
I suppose
Which is
you
harder
can't
to
be
get
too
hold
harsh
of.
because they didn't know that it was Doctor Who back then, did they?
That's
It was just
the
a show.
thing. I guess now we have, as you were saying, we have a mental image of what Doctor Who is, who he is, what sort of stories they tell.
Mhm.
And an interesting point about, I think, the Dalek story is this is where we get the first sort of feeling of what Doctor Who is going to become. Like, for example, the big chase sequence with a lift shaft and then pushing the rocks down, stopping the Daleks,
Yeah.
Ian making his big moral claims at the end, and it kind of sets up, even if it's not in the way we end up recognising it, it sets up all the pieces for Doctor Who, whereas the caveman story feels almost like a prologue, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just, these are your people, we'll get round to what you're going to know as Doctor Who in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Of course, this is all us looking back. At the time, it would have not been thought of like this at all. It would be just, we're making a story.
I think one of the themes, thematically, I think Doctor Who.
Give that girl a doctorate.
Yeah. In a doctor in inserting words
Thematically.
into.
It's like the classic essay
conversations.
thing. You just fit in a thus and a therefore, and you're sorted.
You shouldn't let your lecturers hear that.
I mean, is anyone going to be listening? Is any lecturer going to be listening?
Yeah. Ken will listen to hear whether it's
better than his or not.
I've forgotten my point now. No, I haven't.
You have good.
I think something I've always got the impression of, that doesn't make sense. I've always had the impression from Doctor Who thematically that it's about it's very morally conscious. So it's always like the Doctor makes the correct moral decisions with help if he needs it, which he often does.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't have help, then he makes bad decisions, like in the Waters of Mars.
Which,
really good
admittedly,
episodes.
that's probably the furthest he's ever got. Well, apart from Hellbent, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
We won't discuss Hellbent.
Okay.
But
And I think, having like the Daleks come in as this enemy, it gives the characters in the show, because the Doctor isn't such a prominent character yet, it gives it an enemy which you can be good against.
mm-hmm. You can see his better qualities because you've brought in someone, whereas the caveman story was just a matter of survival. This gear brings in a choice. The whole thing is in the expedition, the episode after this, and a bit here as well, is Ian wanting to stay and help them. And there's a discussion at the end of the ambush with Ian and Barbara just talking about the Thals casually and like how they should help them, and like can pacifism become like a I can't think of the quote now. But it's a quote.
Yeah, I remember the bit you mean.
Yeah, as long as you remember what I call but that sort of stuff. And then the Doctor's, he's not part of the discussion. He's just away from it. He doesn't care. He's looking at his star charts, being like, "Oh, that's great. Oh, we can maybe I can work my way home." And eventually that will change. But at this point, it's still. Would you say it's the Ian and Barbara show at this point? Because many people have said it's.
I'd say it's the Ian show and.
With Barbara.
Appearances from Susan's screams.
Well, Susan doesn't do much in the ambush.
She just screams. She really annoys me.
There's one nice bit in the ambush, which is where she, when they're about to go into the lift.
Is it the bit where she screams?
No, shockingly. It's the bit where she actually puts her life on the line, believe it or not. When she runs in front of the Dalek who's about to find out if Ian... inside his Dalek is real or not. He's like, I didn't get any orders from Control, and then Susan runs in front of them and then like winks to Doctor and Barbara, and she's like, no, don't worry, I've got this. That's one of the nicest moments where you're like, she is trying, but she is I hate the idea that some people have said in the future, because she's obviously a Gallifreyan, she therefore must have all these like impressive Time Lord qualities, but she's only a little girl. Yeah. Like, she's only a teenager.
She's just thinking about her science grade when they get back to school.
When they get back. But that's the thing, which is she's not meant to be this or at least when I view it, and it's people who've said since, she should have been this all-powerful Time Lord. I'm like, no, because not even the Doctor is at this point.
Yeah. Like, when he was young, what does he say? He escaped.
Yeah.
He was like, I ran as far as I could.
And he with Susan, of course, which is, he's just trying to look after his grand, and of course she's going to be pretty mortified. I think Susan gets a raw deal to combat your point.
Susan.
I think she gets a raw deal, but I must admit you've not had the worst of the screaming yet. The worst is yet to come.
It's funny on Marco Polo where she screams, you can't even see her.
Screaming. Yeah, that's the sad part. Maybe we'll one day. Have you any? You've not discussed the Thals.
The Thals.
Have you got any points about the Thals? The first humanoid alien race in Doctor Who.
I like them. They're harmless enough. They try to give peace a chance, which John Lennon was to do. Also, the Thals. They have this picture of the original Dalek, which they show the Doctor, but we don't.
We never see it. Yeah,
which I think is very intriguing and is so. What's that about? What's your thoughts on that? Did they used to look like the Thals? No, because they came from Davros. So,
this is this gets elaborated on in a later Doctor Who story, which is the same story that they riff off a lot in Magician's Apprentice, Genesis of the Daleks, which I've already mentioned. So, I don't know how much I give away to leave that a surprise for you.
Please leave a surprise.
But yeah, we do see, we go back to the beginning of the Daleks, because this isn't their beginning. This is far into their sort of timeline. They've been stuck in those little boxes for a long time now, and the Thals have all they've become farmers, haven't they? They used to be warriors themselves, and now they're all these little farmers.
Because I think about how the Thals and Daleks kind of like originated on the same planet, because they're both races from there. But Davros used to be a little boy, didn't he?
Yes.
With his foot trapped by a claw in the ground.
By a hand mine.
Yeah.
But see, this is where
he used to be a Thal?
No.
No. Okay.
Don't worry. Well, this is what I mean. Does that seem odd to you that, say, something as important as the Daleks' first sort of antagonist has never been brought up in the new series. The files have never been mentioned, even though they basically live together. And
I'm surprised that I didn't know before I watched it that there used to be another race on
Skaro, because you would never expect it.
Yeah. No, that was a surprise.
In terms of the Daleks, how did they appear to you? Because I still think watching it, you can still get genuinely frightened by an episode like this.
I did get frightened, and even though nowadays you sort of see the Daleks a lot to the point where it can be like, oh, it's the Daleks again.
Well, the worst example I think is probably Series 10, the pilot, the first story of Series 10, where the Daleks just appear for 10 minutes and then they're gone. And it's like, well, why did we need them?
I think the peak, possibly the peak, was when they brought out all the different coloured Daleks.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's this now?
And then they went back on it because nobody liked it. And it was almost like an embarrassed. It's like an embarrassed kid in the school ground who tries to be really impressive. It's like, yeah, look at my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And it turns out someone right next to him has got a better deck. And he's actually really rubbish, and then he's like really embarrassed. So he's like, "Oh, I never played with Yu-Gi-Oh cards anyway." That's my rubbish analogy.
I think what the good thing that the multicolored Daleks did was the sort of original 2006 Dalek. I know it's not original, but that sort of what is it? Brown.
Bronze is brown.
Bronze Dalek.
It
was like
off,
the cool one.
Yeah, they're gold in they're gold in Dalek, because if you remember, in Dalek it regenerates itself.
Oh yeah.
So it becomes gold, whereas then every time after that it was bronze.
Okay.
So interesting
and
fact.
Black and red.
If you want to go and see one of the original Daleks used in that first Dalek story for Krista Eccleston at Media City outside, I don't know if you noticed, next to the TARDIS prop there is a bronze Dalek and a gold Dalek. They're both different colours.
I've not noticed that.
Look at it. In the gold one is from Eccleston, and the bronze one is from Tennant. So there you go. Little fact, if anyone wants to come and see some Dalek props, come over to Media City.
Little fact. Well, I thought it was very spooky when when the Daleks are hiding in the walls waiting for the Thals.
I think that's very. As I said on the episode of Complete Review, I think that's one of my favourite all-time scenes in Doctor Who.
It's really
shot
scary.
so well.
Yeah,
it's
how
shot
it just
so
goes
well.
really slowly
around them, and you see them all go in. And then, interestingly as well, which once again shocking for TV of this time and TV until like the end of the 1980s, we actually get POV shots from the Daleks looking out, and like half the screen will be black, and you'll see the Thals walk in, and then they do one from Ian's point of view with him hiding, showing the Thals walking in. It's really, really well done, and considering this is a multi-camera studio setup, it's staggeringly good. It still holds up. I think this whole episode is one of my favourites of the 1960s. If I not already said that, it's incredibly tense, and that bit is, and the music as well. If you've got anything to say about the music throughout this,
I don't remember.
Well, that's the point.
Hold on,
It's other than sounding immensely alien and odd. It's almost like it's not music. It's almost like it's just part of the soundtrack. If that makes sense.
Have you
got no recollection?
No.
Well, if you want, on iTunes, you can listen to the complete The Daleks soundtrack CD.
Oh.
So I highly advise you to do that. Because
from just this episode?
From the whole story, the Dalek story.
Oh.
It's a very evocative, and it doesn't... It's a lot different to what we get now, let's just say that. And it's brilliant for that. I wish Doctor Who had more music like this, which was just pure atmosphere. And not and lots of trumpets.
But that's a brilliant one. That
yeah, but they overused it today. They overused it to the point where every story in the last 10 minutes, as soon as Matt Smith will be late, look at his watch or his Sonic, and then go. It's like, oh, he's gonna save the day. It would ruin any suspense for me, because as soon as that music comes in, you know, right, he's got a plan now.
Doesn't it make you go, oh, yes, the Doctor is saving the world to cool music?
No, I'd rather have him save the world to tense music, like here, like Ian. You don't know if he's going to get out alive, and in fact, some of the files don't get out alive, and it still remains tense. But if they've not seen it, and then they're listening to this, I mean, Kenneth has seen it, so and he's probably going to be our only listener. You were talking about the Daleks.
Which point about that?
And how it genuinely frightened you.
Yeah, it genuinely frightened me. And that was it, really. Yeah, I thought that was a bit that really stood out for me. And it made you think, oh, this is the start of the reputation that they get, making you hide behind the sofa.
Have you ever, when watching Doctor Who, hid behind the sofa?
No.
No. So it's just. Has anything ever frightened you in Doctor Who?
The Wire.
Well, okay, wow. To the point of being genuinely.
I couldn't watch it.
Oh my god!
Because I mentioned earlier how that was the first volume I ever had on DVD, but I would watch the 2 Cybermen episodes and then the start of the Idiot's Lantern, where it's the rain. It's sort of an exterior shot of one of the houses and sort of lightning, and it's Mr. Magpie. Oh yeah, it's Mr. Magpie's shop.
It is, yeah.
And that would start, and I'd be like, oh no, and I'd get genuinely scared. Blink scares me. Everyone. But to the point where I've watched it so much, I don't get scared anymore. Yeah. And then the other times,
I get scared whenever Nardole appears.
Who doesn't?
Because I worry that he's going to have to leave, and I don't want him to leave, but he's already gone.
I think the story with Danny Pink as a kid in that children's home, and what that scared me, those things that were under the duvet.
But they were they, or were they not?
I don't remember the plot.
No, it's incredibly impenetrable.
And then other strong emotions I felt while watching are just sadness, like mainly during David Tennant's departure. And I think that whole ending is just sad because of how sort of urgent it is. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. It's the Doctor just wandering around, talking to Wilfred, trying to look for the Master, and there's no sort of obvious plot. So you're like, where is this going? I'm really sad and scared.
Have you felt any serious sadness when watching classic Doctor Who yet?
I don't think so. Like, there's been times I've been sad for characters like, what's his name? Temesis.
Yes.
He's the one who gets killed.
Yes, he's the one who gets killed. Wow, look at that knowledge there.
Yeah, I wrote it down, just look. Yeah, I was sad because I was like, they're killing this race who just wants to make peace with them. Like, that's sad.
He just wants his fruit. He just wants some juicy fruit.
And then there was food.
And I love that shot where it slowly pans back and he's just got his body draped over all this fruit.
You love that, do you?
I think it's a fantastic shot.
You love their sadness.
I think it's a fantastic shot. So
yeah.
And I stand by it. I think it's time we came to wrap up this episode of Beyond the TARDIS.
Okay.
Is there any final points you have to tell our audience about, shall we say, what you think, what Doctor Who means to you?
Doctor Who to me is a wonderful show that I think will run probably forever
until we take it over.
Perhaps with a few gaps.
Yeah.
I know how I ignored what you said.
Yeah.
No. We won't ruin it. It's top trumps all the way. It's
top trump. Oh, top. Oh, I thought you have to do it. Have the Doctor Who top trumps.
Oh yeah. No, it's fridge magnets, which I stuck to my washing machine / dryer.
But you need a fridge magnet of Temesis's dead body on some fruit.
Has that been made?
No.
No, so I can't have it. It's just like, sometimes I ring my sister up and I'll just sing like Doctor Who soundtrack music to her.
Go on, give us a blast.
No.
But it means that much to you.
No,
I want to show the audience how much it means.
It's too high.
Oh, okay.
I was going to go for it. No,
oh no, that's such a shame.
And
comment below if you want to hear Lauren do some Doctor Who soundtrack. Hang on, for all future TCR videos and we need background music, I'll just get you to do it.
Okay. Sure thing. Sure. And I used to have this K9, remote control K9.
Yes.
Remote control Dalek.
Yep.
And I used to put them next to each other. And even though I owned both remotes, you only need to choose one.
Yeah,
and they
of
both
course.
do the same thing.
Of course.
That's what Doctor Who is to me.
Doctor Who to you is playing with remote control toys.
Parallel K9 and Dalek movements.
Well, after such a brilliant rendition of an episode, I think it's only fair that I say thank you, Lauren, for joining me today to travel through the city of the Daleks, the petrified forest, and of course, through a very, very long lift shaft.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you, dear listener, for travelling with us beyond the TARDIS today, and for details of when we'll next be going beyond the TARDIS. And if you'd like to even maybe visit the show for yourself, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Doctor Who TCR. So until then, and from Lauren as well, I'd like to say thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.